Good morning, everyone. I will open up the public hearing for Keuka Solar Village. My name is Steve Griffin. I'm the CEO. CEO of the Finger Lakes Economic Development Center. We are legally, our legal entity name is the Yates County Industrial Development Agency. And we're here today to take public comments on a proposed Keuka Solar Village project. And way we'll set it up today anyways is normally I would sort of jump into the project detail, but Ryan Wallace, who's the developer here on this project, has joined us this morning. So I will actually let Ryan give an overview of the project. I'll then kind of come in and give a little bit more of the project detail and how we're participating or proposed to be participating in this project. Then we can take any public comments, and what will happen at that point is we're pretty early in the process as far as the public hearing. We're usually we're trying to fit public hearings in this case we're well in advance of when start dates might possibly occur. But regardless, comments will go back to our board of directors for their input before they were to make any formal comments votes on moving forward with the project. I guess with this, I will turn it over to Ryan Wallace from the Solar Village Company LLC and let him give a little overview.
Residential development, primarily given the downside of the entire but also units for middle income folks. By middle income, a lot of people working in the healthcare system, at local colleges, education teachers, even first responders. And this is not, subsidized housing. We are getting obviously applying for incentives through this pilot, and we received some incentives from NYSERDA for the solar and building structure. But otherwise, this is market housing. We are proposing 85 units of property on Bath Road, be divided up amongst 4 buildings. You can see the rendering here behind me, but each of these buildings is actually constructed at our factory in Geneva. We do the foundation work on site, then modules are transported down here from Geneva, placed on site, and then of course finished and landscaped. From the economic development perspective, while this isn't directly creating jobs in Yates County, Ontario County permanent manufacturing jobs, and we certainly do recruit from both Yates and Ontario counties. The buildings themselves are high quality construction, what we call high performance building envelope. And so they have high insulation value, triple pane windows, PVC and metal siding. So they're designed to be low maintenance, keep their presentation value over a long period of time. The interiors are high quality finishes, wood and LVP floors, granite countertops, nitrate ceilings, recessed lighting. Large outdoor living areas on the end units. Each building, each unit has a patio that overlooks Seneca Lake, or at least looks out towards the west. I'm sorry, Keuka Lake, boy. Seneca. Sorry, I didn't hear you. So, getting to units. Units are definitely have more space than state finishes, but have more space and have some features like outdoor kitchens. Also two bedroom. Also two bedroom. Also two bedroom. Not a lot of demand for the larger than that. There's a lot of these units are folks who may have space somewhere else. So they have a lot of people who are selling their home. They want to keep the space and keep it for less. Use their position. And this keeps right now, we're looking at a breakdown date and next year with the completion, the rolling completion, we bring on one building at a time over the next 2 years. And very well.
So Ryan hit some of the project scopes anyways, where we come into play. The purpose for the public hearing is if our proposed incentives are projected to go over $100,000 over the project lifetime. In that case, in this case, that is the case. That's why we're holding this public hearing. Total investment of the project, Ryan mentioned 15 million on the application, came in at $15,111,732. Proposing to do 85 units. The total economic benefit, when you add in some of the wages that will be placed here locally over the lifetime, and our project lifetime, I should mention, that we're projecting to be 10 years because that's the length of the proposed property tax abatement schedule. So everything I can tell you is kind of projected out over 10 years. Total economic benefit to the community, $16.6 million, actually $16,638,290. The only thing I'll tell you is that we don't do any sort of net present value calculations in that. It doesn't forecast how much sales tax might be spent from residents, anything. That all it is company investment to build them and any wages attributed directly to the project. Total community investment, what we consider the community investments, the incentives projected, the tax breaks that the developers projected receive are over 10 years. Projected property tax abatement at $880,511 to be that's probably slightly higher than they actually will be. They tend to do that on purpose. We'd like to over project on what the incentives might be, just so that we can make sure that we prefer projects come in under what the incentives projected to be versus going over what we tell the community they will be. And part of that's just from the schedule, as Ryan just mentioned. I have everything basically going at once, just so that we can show a higher sort of incentive. Sales tax exemption $642,502. So that's pretty quick. Again, $642,502. And then mortgage tax exemption $128,237. So total, we are projecting the investment, the total incentives to be $1,651,250. So it's almost exactly a 10-to-1 ratio of economic benefit to community investment ratio. One of the reasons that we have been so focused on trying to bring residential units into the community is by far and away, it's honestly crisis mode at this point for our employers. There's no employees. And one of the biggest challenges the employers say they hear from their employees is they can't find housing locally. And it's mentioned all sorts of different housing. And we need a mix of housing for sure. But in this case, I'd love to see some single family. We're trying to incentivize some single family housing. We're incentivizing obviously multi-unit here. And there was a study done when we were successful getting the Village of Penn Yan $10 million downtown grant. The independent consultants that the state hired did a housing needs study at that time, because we had housing in there as one of our targeted areas. And if it's kind of interesting, they did if the area, and it's generally all of Penn Yan, almost all of Yates County, to be honest, but it's definitely the Penn Yan address area. But I mean, if you have a Penn Yan mailing address, they're sort of in the trade area. If we lost 2% of our population decline, we would still need 838 new units. Of that, 816 renter occupied. If we were to gain 2.5%, we'd need basically 1,500 new units and just shy of 1,000 renter occupied. And if we go up 5% on this over a 20-year demand, we would need 1,700 new housing units and need just over 1,064 renter occupied. We would need 636 owner occupied. So it highlights, and this was before we sort of had the real estate kind of crunch going on right now. So just mentioning that's why we are interested in looking at and trying to incentivize housing to come in to the area. The current run up in pricing has made that obviously a little bit more challenging right now, but with no doubt that is the single biggest hurdle we have to economic growth right now in the area is access to employees. It's pretty insane right now. So that's the purpose here. So again, just to reiterate, $15.1 million project, total economic benefit to the community over 10 years, 16.6. Total community investment, 1.6, looking at about a 10-to-1 ratio. And with that, I will open it up to take questions from or comments from the those in the audience. And if there's anyone online, I don't know if there is or not, but you can type the question in or raise your hand, or I'm not Zoom. I should be. We've been doing it long enough, but Zoom expert yet. So we'll start with who's in attendance, because that I can see. If you have a comment or question, please just identify yourself so we can get it down correctly.
You said 4 buildings. Do you have something that shows the configuration of the 4 that you know?
We'll have that, I would say, about 3 weeks. We just did water infiltration testing, special determined where we have to look at similar retention and dictate the site plan. Generally speaking, we'd like to come back off the ground.
You just identify yourself. Okay.
My significant investment that I put a year ago when I got that. So will they be on the top part of the flat part, or will they be in my house? Like where?
First 200 feet in from that road going east.
Everybody who can watch our companies and go and when we're I'm extremely
I understand, but at the same time, the property is for sale to anyone to buy it. We're not some huge out of state developer, you know, we're a local company out of Geneva. That's my wife and I own a company.
So,
And the point is that, you know, we want to make, reasonable accommodation. Like, we don't want to put a building, you know, frankly, the best view right up, just as you get to the top of the hill. You know,
Yeah, we're well aware.
and that's not what we do. You know, we do, generally speaking, want to push the buildings further back, both for stormwater reasons and just.
What is going right in the front there?
So anytime we disturb more than an acre, the state requires that we put in a system to catch any additional water that's going to flow off the buildings, off the pavement, and capture that so that water doesn't just flood off the lawn. And so what you're going to see is basically some areas where it looks like it's kind of flat, like little plateaus going up there, and be grass and landscape. But in actuality, it's going to be a 6 foot deep bed of sand that's going to capture that water, basically filter it before it can release that or ideally infiltrate into the soil. And that's all regulated by the state. It has to be done by a licensed engineer. And then once you get further up the hill, obviously we'll have a drive that'll go up the hill. The buildings will be set back. I'm sure there will be a building visible from Bath Road. And so yeah, that's about as much as I could describe as a way of site plan. There will be a site plan submitted to town. There will be a public hearing at the town where you can see the site plan, the renderings, all look where things will be located. I'm sure that has to be fully disclosed and shown right here when we go through that process.
What's your target population?
So most, yeah, again, price point is, our lowest price point is $1,100 per month. Our highest is $2,500 per month. You know, this is, it's not subsidized housing. It's not Section 8. This is market rate housing. But we could have done 60 units and had them all $2,500 a month. The point of getting this pilot is so we can have some that are affordable to nurses, you know, first responders, just average income people. And by average income, you know, I'm talking, you know, $55,000, $60,000 a year. There is not housing available for a lot of people in that range.
Really, I'm a nurse. I live in the house across the road.
And so my wife's an OT at Soldier and Sailors. You know, at $65,000 a year income, what you're supposed to do is not spend more than 30% of your annual income on rent. And so for here, that's about, for a 2-bedroom, that's about $1,400 a month. And so that's what we're going for. We're not charging $600 or $800 a month. We're just trying to get something that's affordable to middle income folks. Because that's, you know, we read the same studies Mr. Griffin does, says that, you know, there's a complete lack of housing. And frankly, I mean, we build single family homes. And to build the homes that you all live in now, the home would need to be $450,000.
Bingo. And is it still worth that now that I'm going to have, you know, transient people, probably a couple hundred people at least, under 85 units, maybe 300 people, but rotating. So they're not always going to be the same people. I myself live in the Hammocks in Geneseo while I was building this house. And so I appreciate the difference between owned properties and the character of that, and rentals where you have moving trucks coming in and out all the time, which you will. And one of the other concerns I want to bring up about your practice is it is, it's gonna be a public safety hazard. So we are light industrial. We have a lot of traffic going by our house. We have construction people with construction vans, we have plugins. We have a boat parade, as you probably know, because we're between the marina itself and the storage barns. I brought some pictures that I'd like to give to you or to this gentleman. Off the road, there is literally a foot and a half between the 3 foot, like that's the Nelson's house. There's no room to walk into town. And you can't tell me that people are going to be walking the quarter mile to that little park. Some I can just picture a mother pushing a stroller with a 2-year-old child, and there's two-way traffic. By the way, it comes by there at pretty good rates. So it is a completely inappropriate place to put something like this, where there's no way to make foot egress into the village through a very complex intersection. But it's a 3-way intersection where Bath Road comes out and Hillcrest comes down, and you have 54, and you have people coming north on 54, making a right on the Bath Road, swinging wide. It's, trust me, I've been there for a year now. I walk it all the time, and it makes me nervous. So, again, I have pictures of exactly where this is, and it's a public safety hazard. That will be on you when somebody gets injured or killed, and it will happen because it's inevitable with the nature of the traffic, the volume of the traffic, and that's all I wanted to say about that. But I have pictures.
Absolutely.
There's several views.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And there's no way you can make it safe unless you're gonna somehow engineer a sidewalk, which I don't know how you do that, because there's no. Maybe.
Nelson Miller, I'm the adjoining property towards Kenyan. Do you have any of these units built elsewhere? So we'd be able to see them.
We will by spring of next year in Geneva. We're doing the site work right now.
Are you doing it's kind of like tiny homes right along where you kind of?
We did those, yeah.
That's your project?
Yeah, we those homes were basically based on lumber prices before all of this, and we tried to. Our initial focus was to do single-family homes. Like I said, you can't build any reasonably constructed quality single-family home for less than 400. And so that's why we moved entities. But we'd be happy. So our next project right now is in the town of Geneva on Carter Road. And anyone interested in a tour opens those right next spring.
Right in the city right now.
The project we're doing right now is in the town of Geneva, outside the state lines. Similar situation, and the fact of the matter is, there's multiple apartment developments. Some people do walk, but by far, it's a car culture. People drive into town. But it is a concern. I'm not downplaying. We live on a 2-lane country road. I walk my boys to school. People drive by way too fast. All we have to walk on is a little shoulder. I've gone to the town and state multiple times to try and get it at least an expanded shoulder or sidewalk. And it's slowly happening, but people don't want to have sidewalks in front of their homes, but then they're responsible for maintaining.
There's no way you can get a sidewalk in there.
And so, I'm not saying it's not an issue, but at a certain point, we're not the municipality. We're creating housing because there's a demand for it. And at a certain point, if there's that much traffic, that much pedestrian traffic, the town and city will need to come together and try to address, how to get people down there more safely. And we're not opposed to being part of the financial solution for that. But at the end of the day, we're assuming it's passed by the town.
We don't do cards. I mean, we do the exemption, but we.
One more,
don't do
you
cards.
probably already answered it, but I plan to ask it, so I'm gonna ask it anyway. Those are very similar rent numbers to the other project I'm going up now. Keuka Shores, is that right? And they're not even done building. What's the research that shows that there's a demand to fill these units also?
So that development, from what we've heard, and we're not involved in that development, is that they originally planned on building a few buildings, but now they have a wait list, so they're building all of them, and they still have a wait list. We currently have a wait list of 200 people for our next 26 units in Geneva. Slightly different market, but the fact of the matter is, we go by studies that, like the one that Mr. Griffin mentioned.
Well, let me check.
And our own evidence, I mean, every time we put a project up, we get hundreds of phone calls. So there's just an extremely high demand right now across the board.
So you said for Keuka Shores, the wait list now exceeds the finished, the number of units they plan.
That's what I've heard. I mean, and we're not basing that, our project off of that, but it is, we are hearing, through the grapevine, those kinds of things that encourage what we've learned on our own. Our own research is the same study that the IDA has.
Yeah, I think they're filling up. I also don't know if there's a wait list there yet or not. I know a couple of months ago when I talked to them, they were 50% filled with numerous other numbers. Now, when I say filled, people living there. A whole bunch more that were actually already signed for deposits down. People just weren't living there yet because it's a pretty active construction site, and I don't think they were quite ready to move in with the amount of construction vehicles and banging and that sort of thing going on at that time. But they were filling up quickly, and I can just again, what it's worth, they're different. It's a different variety, right? It's what Mr. Wallace is proposing is slightly different than what we have. It's the renewable energy development. We haven't had anything that's 100%, going to be solar, all that, which I think is unique to the area. The townhouses was the first real sort of townhouse development we've had. And so and I think my personal opinion that some variety of housing choices is needed and will be a positive.
So allegedly, there's a need for this housing. Allegedly, there's all these employers around here that can't find employees because allegedly they just need a place to live.
I wouldn't tell you it's allegedly. That's 100% true.
What's also 100% true is the government incentivizing people not to work.
Yeah.
Has created that issue everywhere. So you can't say that it's Yates County.
I can say, yeah.
But it's not housing. They're getting paid not to work.
I will tell you that heightened the challenge we had. I can 100% agree with you on that. And I think all the employers would 100% agree with you on that. You're right. It's definitely not unique to Yates County.
Right.
I would tell you before that additional weight was thrown on the challenge of finding employees, it was already extremely difficult. We were getting calls. Our job was probably had turned into 90% recruitment for businesses than it was business recruitment. I will tell you, I have had businesses call me saying, do you still have land for sale so we can move in? They would tell me how many employees they needed. Be like, I got to be honest with you, I don't think we can get you those. So I would prefer, just being honest with you, the next time you need an expansion, come take a look. Because right now, you know, they were looking for 250 employees or so. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I can get you 250 employees right now. So the one of the biggest hurdles of people finding employees to come in is housing. All right, I would tell you you can make the argument whether it's the number one challenge of bringing them in. Obviously, you pay someone enough, they'll make the commute in. There's only so much businesses can afford to pay their employees, however, and I've given this analogy a number of times that even at the highest paying salaries, you're only willing to make some distance of a commute for so long. And the farther you go down on the wage scale, you're passing by, as you mentioned, everyone has help wanted signs out. How many similar paying jobs are you willing to drive by every day because there's no place for you to live here?
So the job deficit, the employee deficit is in Penn itself. It's not in Geneva, it's not in Canada, it's in Penn itself. That's what you're telling us?
Well, no, I'm telling you, everybody's struggling to find employees everywhere.
Understood. Because it's a very long way to Canada or Geneva from Penn. There's no really easy way to get there. So,
Agreed.
you know, citing something like this in Geneva in Canada makes more sense. It's closer to arteries, you know, where people can more easily get wherever they gotta go. And again, I've learned since I've been here is, you've got to plan to, it's going to take you a while to get anywhere. So I'm not sure if the jobs are right in Penn that, this is a really good place to put something like that.
So
again, I have a dog in the hunt. I also think it's going to damage the neighborhood that I just invested. You mentioned what it costs to build a single family home. I just did it I moved in a year ago. And so you are coming in and you're harming my property values before I even had a chance to get settled.
There's no evidence of that. There's
Well, I knew you would say that.
no, there's no evidence of multifamily, market rate multifamily damaging nearby single family. This is my job.
Overlooking my house, yes.
No, it's not affecting your view shed.
I'm just real quick. I just want, we're here for take comment on this part. There's a planning board that will mention more of the sidewalk and stuff.
This is not a safe project, and that's why this is not a safe project.
And just to answer your last question towards me anyways on the jobs, it's because it takes you longer to get to places why the housing here is so important, right? Because if people are, if they're trying, and they're recruiting from Canandaigua, Geneva, Bath, all those areas, they're driving by a lot of other help wanted signs to get to the jobs here where we need them. So if we don't have the housing here for them, right, it's only a matter of time before they stop making their commute here to take something that's closer, especially if gas prices rise. So it's predominantly that reason that we want to attract more housing.
I don't think it's the housing, I think it's the paying people to stay home, honestly. That's why people can't find employees. Everywhere, including here in the building.
Is there anyone online that you can take?
No one online.
Okay.
Steve, I got one more.
Sure.
I don't think that was able to do the one that did that. People showers.
I want to say 82. There's 76-ish, 74 maybe in the town of Milo. And then I believe it's an 8 unit in the village of Penn Yan that's considered senior. So,
More across the road.
more across the road.
On Lucas Drive. It's down there. Maybe you don't.
Yeah,
So that's,
I think that's part of the total.
Good.
So the question is, that's a lot of new people
Sure.
living in Penn Yan. what other impacts did your crystal ball project for, changes or, what other ramifications for the village? Will this influx of people make, where are they gonna eat, shop, stuff like that?
Well, hopefully they do all of that, right? They right. So they will eat at the restaurants, assuming they can find employees for them. Yeah, they will eat at the restaurants, they'll shop at the shops. And that there's added for all the municipalities, there's the direct impact to them, generally speaking, is tax revenues. Whether it's property sales, that sort of thing. And there will be, I should probably explain how the pilots work. It's 100% break on the increased assessed value year one, and then it drops 10%, savings drop 10% every year. They will pay whatever the current taxes are on the property, they'll continue to make those. The higher assessed value that comes along once the project is developed and built, that's where the property tax savings come in, and it drops 10% every year. So the pilot is an acronym for a payment in lieu of tax. They will be making a payment, but up until that pilot fully terminates, it will always show up on the tax exempt roll. So often there's confusion that the projects aren't paying anything. They are, it just shows up as on the tax exempt roll. So there's from the community or the municipality impacts. Yeah, it's basically tax revenues, sales tax revenues from coming in to eat, that sort of thing. And then there's just sewer and infrastructure and fees and that sort of thing. From local business owners, it's everything you just mentioned, right? It's being able to increase their business downtown or wherever they may be located. That's within within their market area for it. Whether they want to buy a boat at Morgan's or come downtown to eat or whatever they want to be. And for us, it's putting people, it's adding the housing stock, and it is trying to find employees for the local employers so they can continue to expand, because in the economic development world, it's that the old 80-20 rule. Basically, 80% of all of our job growth is coming from existing employers that are trying to expand and have a limiting factor right now. Give it a few more minutes in case I don't think anyone else will come in, but I'll just sort of again reiterate, we're ahead of the curve here in this. So obviously they still got to go through planning board approval and all that. In fact, we need to see those finished products before our board can make a formal vote on this anyways. As I mentioned, we're generally not ahead of the curve here like this. We're racing to try to help some get in. So in this case, Ryan got us information very quickly, so we are able to do that. So
are we going to be able to stay informed of this whole process because we're directly impacted by this?
Yeah, so for our aspect, we will take these comments and give it to our board of directors for their further input. I'll talk about it with them now. We can't do anything until we couldn't formally vote on it anyways until the town of Milo Planning Board makes their final decisions.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say it would be over the summer and fall. There'll be a public hearing once they've deemed that we've provided everything necessary for the site plan. I'm sorry, first it goes for a planned unit development review. There'll be a public hearing on that, and the town will decide when that is. Once we get them all the documents, which will probably be about July, so I imagine it'll be August, September, and then if that proceeds, then there'll be a site plan review a couple months later. And again, you're welcome to provide your comments at either of those meetings, either or both.
Yeah, especially when it comes to, and I'll definitely take these, but
Drive out there. I mean,
Yeah,
walk
sure.
it. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's not a frivolous point.
Mhm.
There's no room for anybody to walk safely. So, you know, let alone a mother with children. So,
I think the sidewalk issue came up, I believe the sidewalk issue has come up previously in
others-
non-village
Mhm.
projects. I think in the village that you have to put sidewalks in. I'm not sure that's the case elsewhere. So that comes up, that comes up.
I'll be honest, I'm also concerned about the car volume. You know, I mean, you're talking about a workforce. So that means, you know, in the winter, you got, let's say you have 200 cars up there, you know, you got 150 cars coming out of there every morning, taking a right, heading up into the village. So they're coming down, their headlights are, you know, raking my house for however the hour and a half, whatever they're leaving, and then when they're coming back. You know, this has a serious significant impact on my quality of life. And I just invested the money you're talking about. I'm not a million, you know, I don't have, you know, this kind of money that the state's not giving me a title, you know. I'm paying the full boat for my taxes. And, you know, this is very upsetting. It's very upsetting. So it's not what the council of the neighborhood calls for. And by the way, I don't find it particularly attractive. It's not, you know.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
No.
Now granted, you know, my husband and I moved in 3 years ago and we bought what we thought was our retirement. You know, paid a significant amount of money for it. I'm a nurse. I worked hard all my life taking care of people. And I always told my husband, I want peace. I need peace. And we just moved out of the Jamestown area and that whole city has gone downhill big time. With all the changes in Jamestown. Now, the front of my home is basically with this. The one over there. The front of my home, the peace has been taken away. I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be peaceful out there anymore. I'm only gonna have the back of my house now. And just, yeah, I'm not happy with it. They are ugly, sorry, sometimes, but they're, you know, they're very industrial.
I'm gonna ask that you keep it professional, right? There's no reason to.
They're not aesthetically pleasing. Not in character, not in carefully developed settings where they are being placed. I mean, the Finger Lakes are the Finger Lakes. They're beautiful. Not industrial. I mean, it's appropriate. I kind of think they're kind of cool where you've got them in Geneva because, you know, they're just off the highway. That's what you would expect. Just off a major highway, something like that is, you know, it's kind of, you know, shabby chic or whatever. This is, you know, this is not in character. Anyway, I think you understand our position. I appreciate you letting us, you know, vent some of our.
Sure.
Our frustrations.
That's what it's for.
But I stand by my statement that it's fundamentally unsafe. People will walk, they always walk, and there's no safe way to get to the village from that location. There's no way. So, John, thanks for letting me know about this. We do it in the neighborhood, you see Wilson.
Yep.
So, good luck, hopefully we can find a better place for this. Yeah,
Will there be anything more? Are there any other outbuildings or anything, or is it just 4 of these?
There could be buildings in the rear for maintenance, you know, a place to store a lawnmower and that sort of thing. And
Is it's quite wet back there. Are you guys concerned with how wet that is back there?
I mean,
I mean, I
That's
don't
part of the-
know. how to
Part of
do
this,
it.
the work that we have to do is see how the water flows. You
So
know, one of the,
most of the buildings, these are gonna be on that sloped hill, correct?
they'll be,
'Cause that's the drier part.
so, again, I don't know, but my goal is to push them as far back as possible because that's the flat area. It's a lot more expensive for us, frankly, to do them on the slope part.
Okay. And then this pond thing, this water collection, that'll be on the
Yeah.
hill, so that's a lot of what we'll be looking at.
Well, and again, I mean, these are things that we're not immune to these concerns. I mean, you know, we don't want to come in and be the project that everyone pays. You know, I think you'll find that, you know, so for instance, in our current project, the people who are moving in there, I've got 3 doctors. I've got a retired Cornell professor. I do have some young families with kids, but it's not as transient as you might think. You know, I mean, no, are people gonna live there as long as you're gonna live in your home? Probably not. But you know, it isn't, for instance, one of the big questions I've gotten is, can I sign a 5-year lease instead of a 2-year? I mean, these are people generally looking,
Or you want everybody to sign 2 years?
I would like a 2-year minimum. And honestly, we're looking at longer leases because it isn't, the way housing has become, it's, when we started doing this, I could build a high quality house for $250,000. You know, now it's $375,000. And so when faced with that, people are trying to figure out, okay, how can I have a place that I really call my own, but that I can still afford? And so we're trying to create a rental option for them that's in the middle, where they can think of it as their own place, be in it long term. And we want to encourage that. So,
Right, then why don't we, 9:49? Why don't we, I'll close the public hearing, and I thank everyone for coming. Ryan, thanks for coming and giving the overview. We have your sign-ins, we have your comments, so appreciate it, and we'll hear it. Like you said, we're early in this process, so there'll be other opportunities.
Any more of those handouts?